Welcome to episode number 5 of Ruby's Garden Block of the Month with Fawns and Porter. I'm Jenny K. Parks. If you want to know more about me, you can check out my website, jennykquilts.com. We've been using these wonderful Paintbrush Studio fabrics, 1930s, so sweet fabrics from Paintbrush Studio. And today we're going to talk about this lovely center, our centerpiece. It is the string star block. Very fun. I think you're going to enjoy it. All right, so this is the ideal. This is what we're shooting for to create this star using string piecing. Now, if you need a refresher of string piecing, you can go back to the video where we shot that, video number 3, and see how to do it, because I want you to be sure that you know how to do it, but I think you can handle it. The first thing that we need to do is cut our setting triangles, because that can be a little complicated and confusing. Now, setting triangles are going to be what goes in around that block when we're ready to go. So I'm going to show you how to cut this, the easiest way that I know how. You're going to cut out the square according to the necessary dimensions, and then lay out your block. And then you notice I'm laying my ruler down from point to point. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this 2 times across there to make our triangles. But a lot of people start with cutting this one first, and then it's hard to move and situate to cut the second one. I don't want you to have to hassle with that. I'm going to cut it this way, go crossways here, and just go and cut it one direction to the other. Notice I am still out of the way and cutting very carefully. Now I'm going to pick up my ruler and don't bump anything else, okay, while you're doing this. And I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to lay it on the top to bottom corners, like so. I'm going to scoot my ruler up off the edge, because we know what happens if it's off the edge, right? You're going to bump it and then you're going to be wishing you hadn't bumped it. Okay, I'm going to cut it this way. And that's going to give us, ta-da, 4 lovely setting triangles. So there we have that part all ready to go. All right, now we need to talk about making our string piecing. And as you saw in the previous video, I found this stuff that has a grid on it, right? A 1-inch grid. And I thought that'd be great to use for this part as well, because it's such a lightweight foundation and it works great. So in your kit, you get a template for this that shows you the exact size to lay it out. All I did is took my ruler and traced the template onto each of these. And I made enough of these to do the whole thing, but you just trace it with a pencil along those lines. Voila. All right, and then I pieced it like that. And I made sure, so you can see my triangle, diamond shape, that's drawn on there. And you can see that I made sure all of the fabrics were going over the edge. Now, just a couple thoughts about color placement, because on this one, there's certain sections that are going to meet and certain sections that aren't going to meet. What I found I had the tendency to do when I was putting it together is put like all the same colors in the same spot. You don't want to do that. You want to mix it up and have a lot of fun with it. So if you think like, okay, for this segment, I'm going to start with this fabric. And then for the next one, I'm going to start with the green here. And then for the next one, I'm going to start with the blue. And so if you keep that variety going, the visual variety, it'll be better. It'll be nice and spread out and could really scrappy, which I think is the feel that we're going for here. You can, if you want to, line them up like we talked about previously, in all segments, but I think at the angles, I like it so much better. So I've done this, I pressed it all out, we're good to go. I'm going to cut off the edges here. And I go just from point to point and work my way around. You go from point to point. And I like to I drew the seam allowance line on here as well, because I think that it gives me one more added visual to make sure I'm lined up with. If I'm just counting on this line, sometimes it can, I think it's just one more visual, right? I can line it up on my quarter mark on my ruler, and that is one more thing that helps me to make sure I'm getting it just right. Oh, and then we need this one right here. Line it up. Beautiful. So we have our scraps. Say bye-bye to those. Bye-bye to our little things off the edge. And voila. Voila. Ha-ha. Okay. So here I have another done one. And you can kind of see what I'm saying, whereas if I started the center with all the same blocks, it would really you wouldn't get that random scrappy feel that you want. So try to mix it up, try to spread them out. Like for example, if I went like this, these blues are kind of close. I don't want the same blues, or if I turn it around like this here, I don't want the same blues really close to each other. I want to spread it. I want to spread the love, and I want everybody to have a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go this way. That seems the most fun to me. And then I'm just going to piece this together. So let me show you how that is done. I line up my corners real good. And I'm just going to piece along this line. There's several layers, so it might feel a little bit different than it usually does when you're sewing, but that's all right. Kind of line things up a little bit there. Okay, you can see I got my line pressed right there, line stitched. And now we're going to press it. Now keep in mind too, I've used this all throughout with pressing, and I think that's important to continue. If I want to press it really carefully to protect that surface. And another way that you could do it too is kind of if I've finger pressed it this direction, then I'm going to come at it from the top and press it that way. So let me show you that. You want to try when you're putting all of these together to press them all in the same direction so you get kind of a clockwise or counterclockwise, either one is fine, thing to it. So they're all kind of going in a circle. I find that gets me the best results. Oh, look at that. I got a little edge kind of flipped up on me. Make that behave. All right. So now we need to put in a setting triangle. We need to make one of these. So let me grab a setting triangle that I made. And we need to do this, we have to create a Y seam. I know, don't fear the Y seam. We're gonna do it and it's gonna be just fine. We're gonna make a few marks, and I've got a little tool which I really like for this that's really helpful for me to get all those lines, because to get all the 1/4 inch marks, because that's what we want to put a little dot at all the 1/4 inches. But they're kind of weird angles and it can be tricky to measure. So this helps to measure that a little bit. So let me just show you. Like I put it on here. You find the angle that fits the best. And I'm just going to go through with my mechanical pencil and make a little dot. Oh, cute little dot. And then I'll come around to the other parts here and find the point that's going to fit the best. That's not quite it. Where'd it go? There we go. That's the one we want. Find that one that's going to fit that corner the best. Put it in there. We'll come over again and we'll mark this one. Although you don't need to mark this outside point, and we're just going to stitch back it. We're going to ignore it when I do it, but it's a good idea to practice. And then we're going to come in on here, and I want to mark those same points. And the first one I'm going to stitch it onto is this one here. And I want to mark a 1/4 inch there and a 1/4 inch on this other end. So let's see. That one, oh, that's not quite right here. Let me see. It's not 90 degree. What's going to work best there? I think, aha, this one. That one works really well to tell me when I am really close to 1/4 of an inch right there. So I'm going to mark that one. And you can also see, because I got that bright orange thread there, right? So that's marked on that side. And then we don't really need to worry about marking it on this end, but if you want to, you sure can. You can see where my lines intersect and where that's going to intersect on there. It's right there on that point. Okay, so let me flip this over. And we're going to line up where that dot would be, where that dot is that we just marked on the other side, and our edge. I'm going to put a pin close to that intersection. I don't like to pin right on top of the intersection because I think it distorts it, but close to it to tell it where we want it to be. And then we're going to come here and start. Now, the trick here is that I'm going to start at that point. I'm not going to start beforehand. That allows us to move it around and make our whole Y seam. So that's going to be key here. So I'm going to put my foot down and see if I get right in on that dot. Oh, yeah. Got it. Okay. And if you can, do a little back stitch. This is a great, do a little back stitch here. I'm just going to keep going at this point, but doing a back stitch will help to secure it a little more. Remember, there's a lot of lumps and lines that you're going over here, so you might need to take it nice and slow with your machine, which is fine. It's just going to be extra bumpy, but the payoff is going to be worth it. Oh, kind of getting a little off track there. Pull it back into shape. Lovely. Okay, so there we are. This fell off of here for a second. And like I said, all throughout this process, we want to try as much as we can to press to the dark. I think you're going to be happier with those results. But if you can't, and like this, in all these seams, it's hard to make all those seams go in another direction. So this is a case when I didn't press towards the dark. I pressed with the light on the top. It just seems to make everything work a little better. You know, people have lots of hard and fast rules, but if it doesn't work for you, it's not a good rule. You find the one that's going to work for you. All right, halfway there. Yay. Okay, so now I'm going to take it, and we're just going to turn everything this direction. See, I've kind of folded this up. I'm going to bring that around there. So you see I kind of turned and folded that in there. Line up those things as best as you can, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to stitch right down to that stitch that I did before, right on top of it. But I don't want to go over, and I don't want to go off to the side, because that's going to mess me up. But if I stitch right to it and stop there, then I'll be able to lay it out nice and flat. All right. And it is tricky too, especially to start at these points, because there can be lots of stuff in there. So I like to start just not like feeding right at the point, but start just a skosh in from there. I think that does better for me. All right, here we go. Awesome. See? This isn't so bad. You can do it. Let's put it up a little bit. As I'm getting closer to there, I'm going to slow down. I want it to stop right there. I don't want to mess around with it at all. And I don't want to accidentally stitch over. Because if I stitch over, then I got to rip it. And I'm not a fan of ripping. So go nice and slow there. Stop. Cut it off. Are you ready? Here you go. Voila. Hey, that's pretty good. That turned out pretty good. All right, so let me press it, and I'm going to press again, this kind of wants to lay down that way, but I don't want it to. I want it to lay down this way. So I'm going to tell it which way I want it to go. There we go. Ta-da! Nice. All right, so now we're going to put these two segments together, like here. Now, as I'm looking at this, again, this goes to color, layout, and your choices. Do I want these two to go together, or do I want these two to go together? I think I kind of like it this way. I kind of like it that way. I think there's fewer of the same things right next to each other. Although you had that one. I found out when I was doing the first one that I always tended to put the same colors in the same places. You don't want to do that. Fight that. Fight that urge. You can do it. All right, so we're going to put these all together here. And then we're going to do the last segment for the block, which is setting that last square. So I'm going to kind of line these up here and make sure they're real good. Again, there's a lot of layers. Take your time. This isn't the usual 2 strips that you're putting together. There's a lot of layers and bumpiness. So be patient with your machine. Oh, and it wants to hook up on a seam there. Lovely. Oh, look at that, yay. Okay, so here. And, oh, let's see here, I didn't follow my own pressing rule. I would press this in this direction, but that one's already down, so we're not going to stress too much about it. I'm just going to press this in. Seems like it kind of wants to go this way. I'm going to do that for here for your presentation so you can see it and see the technique. Now we have this to fit right in there. Woo-hoo. We're going to use the same method that we did marking the dots. And we're just, oh, that's going to be pretty easy here, isn't it? We're just going to put a dot right in here. You almost don't need these guys, but it's not a bad guide, and it's not a bad habit to get into when you're working with set-in scenes. I mean, you can almost eyeball where it is, but again, not a bad habit. There we go. Okay. All right. We can line that up, and I'm lining this up here, and I can see that it's right over my seam allowance. It's right over that little crease there where I seamed them together, where I put them together. It's right over that fold. And there. I'm going to start right at that dot that I made, and that's where I'm going to sew. I'm not going to sew ahead of the dot, remember, because we have to turn this. We have to leave that amount of seam allowance nice and spare. All right, so let me put my foot down, see if I've got it just right. Oh, let me adjust it just a little bit more. That's better. Ha, ha, ha. And you know, a lot of 1/4 inch feet on machines have a mark that tells you when you're 1/4 of an inch behind the line, behind where you're going to stitch, and that you can use to your advantage because you can say, okay, I need this back just 1/4 of an inch. Beautiful, and you got it. All right. Again, lots of layers, so we're going nice and slow. I'm going to tuck that a little bit more. Nice, nice, nice. Beautiful. All right. And I'm going to press this Again, in this direction, again, because we're working with so many seams, they're just going to rebel at us if we try to make them do something else. So say, fine, have it your way. That's the way we'll do it. Okay, now we're going to do the same turning method here. I'm just going to fold this down, except we have to turn a little bit farther. So see, I've just turned it. We've got our parts there. Hang on here. There we go. You're really just turning it and folding it back down. Really, it's not too scary. There's nothing to be afraid of here. We can do this. And I'm going to go right there and line up with that thread that I've got, just right there. If you've never made one of these before, if you've never done Y seam, see why I said this could be a magnum opus? There are so many skills here that you can learn and try. Okay, I'm going to start just a tiny, let me go a little further in. I don't want anything to get munched up. Go nice and slow. Beautiful. There are really so many skills that you can learn from this and that you can master. Add to your quilting repertoire, as it were. Straighten that out. I'm taking my pin out. I'm just going to kind of wiggle it and make sure. Oh, yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. See, you don't ever have to be afraid of set-in seams. Ha ha. Nobody said they had to be your favorite, but you can be good at it still, right? Okay. Oh, look. I love it. I love it. All right. So that's how you do it. That is how you complete the string star block, the center medallion on our lovely quilt. In the next episode, episode number 6, we are going to talk about the corners, making the corners on your quilt, and I've got, again, some neat stuff to share with you. So I'll see you there. This lesson of Ruby's Garden Block of the Month is brought to you by Paintbrush Studios, fabrics for your masterpiece.